You don't replay every conversation, only the ones that never emotionally finished. Here is why your mind keeps going back. It's usually the smallest moments that return. Not the big arguments, not the obvious confrontations, not the conversations that clearly mattered. It is the small ones. A comment someone made while walking away, a look that stayed just half a second too long, a sentence that sounded normal at the time but felt different later. You're not thinking about it while it is happening. It arrives afterward. When the room is quiet, when the day has already moved on, when nothing is demanding your attention. That is when your mind brings it back, not loudly, not urgently, just enough to be noticed. You tell yourself it was nothing. You tell yourself it did not matter. You tell yourself you're overreacting. But the replay continues anyway, not as a loop of panic, more like a slow examination. You do not feel anxious while doing it. You feel alert, as if your mind is checking something it has not finished checking yet. Most people would say this means you care too much, or that you are insecure, or that you are looking for problems where none exist. But that explanation never quite lands because you do not do this with every interaction. You do not replay everything. You do not obsess over strangers or simple exchanges. Only certain moments stay, the ones that carried a strange weight, the ones that felt emotionally uneven, the ones where something subtle shifted without anyone explaining why. The strange part is this: when you replay them, you are not trying to change what you said. You are not imagining better responses. You are not rehearsing a confrontation you wish you had. You are listening for something you did not hear the first time. A tone beneath the words, a pause that interrupted the flow, an emotional undercurrent that did not match the surface. Your mind does not rush while doing this. It studies, it's almost calm. You might even forget you are replaying anything at all until you realize you have been thinking about the same exchange for 10 minutes, not because it hurt, but because it did not resolve. You've noticed this about yourself for a long time. Even as a child, you paid attention to what was not said. You sensed moods before anyone explained them. You felt tension before it turned into words. You did not know why you noticed these things. You just did. So your mind learned to hold on to moments a little longer, just in case, just until they made sense. You learn that conversations do not always end when they end. That meaning can lag behind words. That clarity sometimes arrives late. And when clarity does not arrive, your mind stays open. People assume this kind of replay means you are stuck in the past. But it does not feel like the past. It feels unfinished, as if the conversation is still quietly happening somewhere inside you. You do not feel distressed about it. You feel incomplete. That is the part no one understands. You are not reliving the moment emotionally. You are processing it, sorting it, trying to locate what did not land cleanly. Sometimes you realize nothing was wrong at all. And when that realization arrives, the replay stops instantly. Other times you notice a subtle misalignment you could not put into words before. And once you see it clearly, the replay ends there too. That tells you something important. Your mind is not replaying conversations because it enjoys doing it. It is replaying them because it is waiting for something to settle. And until it does, the door stays open. You have also noticed how physical this can feel. A tightness in your chest when you think of a certain sentence. A heaviness behind your eyes when you recall a certain silence. A faint sense of unease that does not attach itself to any obvious thought. Your body seems to remember something your mind has not fully named yet. That does not scare you. It interests you. You have always trusted that there is meaning beneath physical sensations, so you do not push the thoughts away. You let them pass through again and again until something clicks. People tell you to stop analyzing, to let things go, to stop reading into everything. But you are not reading into it. You are reading what was already there. You do not replay conversations that were emotionally clear. You do not revisit moments where energy matched words. You do not overthink interactions that felt complete. It is only the ones that felt hollow, or misaligned, or slightly off. And here's the part you rarely say out loud. You replay these moments not because they mattered, but because you are not convinced they did not matter. That uncertainty keeps the door cracked open. You do not know what you are looking for yet. You just know you will recognize it when it appears. Beneath all this quiet mental movement, a question lingers. Why does your mind refuse to discard moments other people barely remember? Why do conversations that never mattered leave a mark inside you? Why does clarity feel like something you have to arrive at alone? The answer is not obvious, and it is not what most people think, because this habit did not form randomly. It formed around something you learned long before you ever questioned it, something that trained your mind to stay awake even after the conversation ended. That understanding has not surfaced yet. For now, it simply waits, in the silence after words are gone, in the space where meaning has not quite landed, in the quiet persistence of a mind that does not close files until it understands what they were really about. Over time, you begin to notice something precise. Your mind does not replay conversations to judge you. It replays them to find alignment. You are not scanning for mistakes. You are scanning for coherence. This is where things quietly turn. What feels like being stuck in the past is not really being stuck. What seems like fixation is not really fixation. What looks like overthinking is actually something else. It is delayed recognition. You learn slowly and without being told that meaning does not always arrive on time, that people do not always say what they feel, that tone can contradict words, that emotional truth often hides in pauses and in what is left unsaid. So your system adapted. It learned to keep conversations open internally until something made sense. You did not grow up trusting that clarity would be offered openly. You learned to find it yourself, and finding it takes time. Empaths replay conversations that never seem to matter because those conversations were never emotionally finished. Not on the surface, not inside. You do not revisit what was said. You revisit what was carried. The unspoken tension, the misaligned energy, the emotional residue no one acknowledged. Your mind stays with it because your system is trained to complete what others leave incomplete. You became fluid in emotional aftercare long before you realized you were doing it. You learned how to stabilize interactions internally when outside resolution was not available, how to make sense of subtle shifts without asking questions that might go unanswered, how to close emotional loops quietly and alone. So now when a conversation ends without emotional clarity, your mind does not interpret that as over. It interprets it as pending. And pending things ask for attention. This is not anxiety. Anxiety rushes. This is patience sharpened by experience. You wait for meaning to emerge. Sometimes it does, sometimes it does not. But until that uncertainty resolves, your mind keeps the file open. You may have noticed how reassurance rarely helps. Someone can tell you everything is fine and the replay continues anyway because reassurance addresses words. You are tracking something deeper. You are tracking congruence. When tone, energy, and words all align, your mind rests. When they do not, it stays alert. This makes you perceptive, but it also makes you tired because you are often finishing conversations emotionally that others have already abandoned. You carry what they leave behind, not intentionally, instinctively, and here's the part that lingers most. Your mind learned this pattern because once paying attention was necessary, once misunderstanding carried consequences, once silence required interpretation, once clarity was not offered unless you found it yourself. So you learned to stay awake after conversations ended. You learned to listen when others stopped speaking. You learned that emotional truth often arrives late. That skill became part of how you think, and now it shows up as replay. Not because you are stuck, because your system does not trust that things are truly finished until they feel complete. This awareness does not ask you to change anything. It just invites you to notice how much responsibility your inner world has been carrying, how often you have been the one to finish what others never named, how every unfinished moment still sits with you. Sit with that, not to solve it, just to feel the difference between a mind that overthinks and a mind that learned very early not to stop listening too soon.